Hey everybody, this is your how to draw a deck tutorial. The tools you'll need today is a piece of graph paper, a ruler, and a pencil, and I'm going to be using this Sharpie so that you can see. The deck tutorial, well, this is it. It is the heart of your bridge. This is the part that you need to focus on building for strength. The trusses, their only job is to keep things from flexing. This is the thing that is going to support your bridge. So here we go. Now, we're going to make this deck at 24 centimeters, so I line everything up on this blue line right here. Remember, I don't start at the edge of the page, and I draw straight over from 0, and I stop precisely at 24, just like that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make mine 7 wide. So again, I'm going to use those blue lines, and I'm going to mark this precisely from 0 to 7. Now I'm going to flip that paper over, and I'm going to do the same over here, 0 to 7. Now, I use those blue lines and sometimes the gaps on the blue lines to make sure everything is nice and straight. And now I finish my top chord, and I just connect the dots. Now I make sure that I write my measurements on there. Here we go. So I'm going to write 24 centimeters by 7 centimeters. Always important to write our measurements down. Now, I'm going to use a pencil here, and I'll explain why. We're going to find the middle part of this number, 24. Well, half of 24 is 12. We all know that. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So I'm going to put a little mark here at 12 in pencil, and then I'm going to do this over here. Same thing, little mark at 12 here. And then I'm just going to connect those dots with a really light line. Just like this, just like this. Just a very, oops, I've recently hurt my hand. It's hard to hold a pencil. So I don't know if you can see that, but there's a very light line here. Now, I'm going to put the number 1 on that light line, and I'm going to make a mark at 0 and at 2. So I'm going to go 1 centimeter that way and 1 centimeter that way. So a mark at 0 and a mark at 2. I got that bad hand injury, so I'm trying to do it right here. Then I'm going to flip it over and just do the same. I'm going to put a mark at 0, and I'm going to put a mark at 2. And now I'm going to use my Sharpie, which will indicate to you that this is a permanent line, to draw a line connecting those dots, and a second line connecting these dots. So far so good, right? Now I can actually take my pencil and I can erase that middle line right there. So there we go. Now I'm going to find the middle mark of these two lines and basically do the same thing. So that's 7, so what's half of 7? It's 3.5. And so then we'll go over here. What's half of 7? And again, I'll find that 3.5. And then using my pencil, because this is a temporary line, I'll just put that there. And now I'll do the same thing. I'll put 1. I'll put the number 1 on that line. I'll make a dot at 0 and a dot at 2. Then I'll flip that over and do the same thing over here, putting that 1 on that temporary pencil line, a dot at 0, and a dot at 2. And now I will use my Sharpie. Again, you're going to be using pencil, but I'm doing Sharpie so you can see pretty clearly where those lines are. And now I'll take my pencil and erase that up. Okay, looking pretty good. Now, this is just a demonstration of how to make a bridge. How to build a deck. This is our deck. This is a demonstration of how to make a deck. It is not a great design. So I'm going to do something that is going to be weak, but it shows you how to use the math very easily to create a symmetrical bridge, meaning it's the same on both sides. You are going to have to, when it's time for you to draw your design, you're going to have to build with much more strength in mind. So here's the easiest way that I can show you. We're going to divide this section in half and this section in half. And because we're doing this nice and mathematically balanced, it should be the same on both sides. So I'm going to measure from here to here, here to here. And I find that it's 11. Now, what's half of 11? It's 5.5. So I put my dot right there, and then I go down here and I put a dot at 5.5. Now, I'm going to connect those two dots just like this. And if I have done my math right, I have the same measurement on both sides, okay? Now, because this is a Sharpie marker, these lines are big and fat, so the math doesn't quite work out, but when you use a nice sharp point pencil, it's gonna work out perfectly. So I'll do it again over here. I make my mark at 5.5. I make my mark at 5.5, and I connect my dots. Now, the mathematical strategy that we're using is measure, divide in half. Measure, divide in half. If I wanted to make 3 of these, if I wanted to have 2 of these lines, so maybe one here and one here, or 3 blocks, I would divide this by 4, right? So, now we're going to do our support. The best type of support in a deck is layered support. So we're going to do an X in each box, just like this. And we're going to continue making X's in each box, just like this. Now these little guys here, they need their own little X in there. Some of you who are perfectionists out there, you might be saying, but Mr. Schroeder, your X isn't perfect. And I would say, I know, I'm trying to film a quick tutorial for my students. I really should use a pencil, but I think this video is better using a Sharpie. Of course, remember, you'll be using a pencil. Okay, as we get to the end here, we see that our deck is beginning to get some support. These X's in these boxes are not enough support. Would you want to walk across this if there were deadly penguins underneath or alligators? Would you want to try and walk across that? No. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put on our next layer of support. Now for me, this is a no-brainer. I want to cover the top of my bridge with noodles. I think this is an easy way to add some structure. So what I'm doing is I'm just following my little blue lines on the page to add my structure. But remember, I have to leave the center of that deck. I need to leave a hole in there that is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So you'll notice that I'm leaving that hole open. Keep in mind, this is not a strong design. This is a pretty weak design. You're going to have to take what you're learning in here and you're going to have to apply it to your own design so that your own design is strong. This is just a demonstration. Now, what I have here is I have a bridge deck, which is basic, right? But let's make sure we have all of our measurements in place. So how much is that? Well, if that's 7, then that's 7, that must be 7, and all of these must be 7. So we only need to write it once. What about these guys? Those are going to be, 9. So now I can write something like this. 9 centimeters. These little guys right here, those are 3.2 centimeters. And now we have everything we need so that we can make a cut list. Now again, remember, this is not a strong design. Don't just copy this. You have to improve it. How will you improve it? Will you add more of these and more X's? Will you add more boxes, more X's, and more lines? That's up to you. But this is how you build a mathematically balanced deck.